Welcome. We are continuing with our initiation to be parallel to the organization format of Rigved Samhita. Today we will be face to face with the institution Yagna. Yagna is the basic Vedic institution. Vedic systems are having foundational reach for the existence phenomenon as a yajna. Yajna is the natural process of the evolutionary growth of the existence phenomenon. Formulation yajna leads us to TC value 13. Now, value 13 as it is giving us one organization as 4 plus 5 plus 4, which means that the 5 space as origin of a 4 space, when transcends out, then the 4 space domain splits and multiplies as a pair of 4 space domains. So yajna as such is an organization chase of the transcendental domain emanating from within the creator's space. The transcendental space, the transcendental domain is playing the role of an origin of the creator's space. Now the creator's space, a 4 space, is having a feature that it will simultaneously give rise to the evolution as of quadruple steps leading to 1 space, 2 space, 3 space and 4 space bodies. It is normal, mundane part of the existence phenomenon. However, the transcendental reach within the domains is that it leads to the transcendental origin. We have to approach creator's space not only as a space which sequentially takes us from values 1, 2, 3 and 4 parallel to the format of a 1 space body, 2 space body, 3 space body and 4 space body. Means we have not only to approach 4 space as which leads sequentially to hypercube 1, hypercube 2, hypercube 3 and hypercube 4 as a sthapatya miring rod of quadruple steps for swapping a 4 space domain. What we have to learn, with which we have to be initiated, for which we have to be face to face with, is the origin of a 4 space. Origin of a 4 space is 5 space. So for to be parallel to Rigved Samhita, we have to be face to face with the origin of a 4 space. Origin of 4 space is a 5 space. Now 5 space as origin in fact puts a seal upon the 4 space domain. By having origin as a seal would mean that the existence phenomenon within 4 space domain will be upon a transcendental base. Therefore, the existence within solar universe is the existence along a transcendental base. It becomes the 5th fold The first four folds are dimension, boundary, domain, and origin. However, at the next phase, it becomes a base. Now see, fourth space is to have creations of fourfold layers, four folds, and the fifth fold is provided by a origin. But origin itself is one of the folds. Therefore, the origin as the fourth fold provides an additional feature because the previous three phases and stages are of linear dimensions, while the fourth dimension is of a spatial order. It is this feature of origin of a spatial format or origin having one additional dimension than the domain is the feature which is to be comprehended well. Now, 3 space means hypercube 3 as a domain will have 3 sequential steps of values 1, 2 and 3 parallel to 1 space body, 2 space body and 3 space body, means parallel to an interval, square and a cube. Then this domain gets sealed, and the seal here is of a origin. An origin of a 3 space is a 4 space. Therefore, our physical world, a 3 space setup for the space within a dimensional frame of triple linear dimensions will seal it as a domain, as a 3 space domain, and within it the phenomenon could be a progression of triple steps, and then because of the origin as a seal, the phenomenon of 3 space will get restricted to the format features of triple steps, say of interval, square and cube, or of a single axis, pair of axes and triple axis. Beyond that, there is no reach within 3 space, and it happens because of a seal at a origin, and seal at the origin of a 3 space is a 4 space. The step ahead, when the 4 space itself, though in the form of a seal of a 3 space, when unfolds itself, so it is this unfolding of this seal at the origin of a 3 space which is the phenomenon, which is the institution, and it is Yajna. Yajna is a institutional processing steps of the Vedic systems in terms of which the seal at the origin unfolds itself. It is this unfolding of a seal which is to be chased by the sadhakas. So the seal is at the origin of a dimensional frame. So dimensional frames get sealed because of the higher dimensional body, higher dimensional space, higher dimensional setup is blocking it, sealing it. Now, when this seal will permit unfolding, or when seal will melt, or when it will be unsealed process, then the 3-dimensional frame will split into a pair of 3-dimensional frames and origin will get released. We know 3 space will lead to a pair of 3-dimensional, and the 4 space as an origin would release. So this way this setup will become 3 plus 3 plus 4 is equal to 10. It would be parallel to the 10 directional frame emerging for the expression of the 3-space domain. So the 3-space content in this unfolding process will have flow along all the 10 directions. Likewise, this 10 directional flow would be as it will remain within the 3-space domain itself. However, when 3-space domain, because of unfolding of the seal, will have a reach for a 4th dimensional setup. 3-space as a domain with unfolding of a seal will take to a 4th space. Within 4th space, this 3-space body will have an liberty of a motion. So when we are transcending from 3-space, means we will be acquiring an additional dimension. This additional dimension as such will be a degree of freedom of motion for 3-space body. This that way would mean that the initial flow within 3-space domain is of 10 directional reach. This 10 directional reach, because of a 4th degree, will provide the 11th direction. So 10 directional flow will lead to the 11th directional flow. 3-space as a domain will enter the 4th-space domain, and the 4th dimension will be a degree of freedom of a motion. Now a cube, a representative regular body of a 3-space hypercube 3, this setup we know is of 12-edged frame. This 12-edged cube within a 4th space, because of unfolding of a seal at its origin, will lead to the 13th edge. So it is this 13th edge acquisition. So the 13th edge is acquired by a cube along the 4th dimension within the creator's space. It is this acquisition of the additional edge, 13th edge, for solids, 3-space bodies within 4th space along the 4th dimension as a degree of freedom of motion. It is this format, it is this value which makes the institution of a Yagna. Yagna is a formulation. This formulation is of pentaletters set up, a pair of syllables, and this 5-letter setup is leading us to value 1 plus 1, 4 plus 6 plus 1, making it 13. This value 13 is the value, TCV value of the formulation Yagna. Yagna is an institution. It is a Vedic processing process of the existence phenomenon of our solar universe, and it is this phenomenon which takes us to the way the 12-edged cube acquires the 13th edge along the 4th dimension of the creator's space. We know that the 4th dimension of the creator's space is of a spatial format, because 4 space is a spatial order space. Each dimension here is of a surface form. Therefore, this pair of edges set up will take us to 13 and 13, making it to be 26, and it is a value of the formulation Devata. Therefore, this process of unfolding of a seal is the process which takes us to the institution of a yajna, which acquires additional 13th edge for a cube, and this 13th edge is manifesting along the format of the 4th axis of the creator's space, and as each axis of 4th space is of a spatial format, as such it takes to the value 26, and it is the value of Devata. Therefore, this process of yajna is the process which takes to the institution of a Devata. It is this relationship, it is this inter-coordinated organization of the yajna and a Devata which deserves to be comprehended well. Sadhakas are fulfilled with intensity for it to be parallel to the Vedic systems, Vedic knowledge, Vedic organization of the scriptures, Vedic mathematics, Vedic sciences, Vedic technologies shall be face to face with the institution of a yajna. For to be parallel to the institution of a yajna, first of all, we have to be face to face with the formulation yajna. Formulation yajna takes to TC value 13. Value 13 takes us to the 13th edge of the 12-edged cube. 12-edged cube is a 3-space body, and it within 4 space acquires an degree of freedom of motion along the 4th axis. It is this feature which as a value, as a format, deserves to be comprehended well. Now see the concept of an origin and unfolding of the origin and permission for the domain to acquire a degree of freedom of motion in the additional dimensional space of the origin can be sequentially chased by first of all being face to face with the enlightenment preserved in the scriptures as an enlightenment of the Lord Creator Himself. Lord Brahma, four-headed Lord, Creator the Supreme, meditates within the cavity of his own heart, means at the origin, which is seat of a transcendental Lord, that is of a 5 space. So 4 space Lord, Creator the Supreme, is having a transcendental seat, a 5 space seat within its heart. Heart as an origin is leading to value 5 for the transcendental domain, for 4 space as a domain. Now Lord Brahma meditates within the cavity of his own heart at the transcendental seat and acquires a transcendental grace, as a result of which Lord Brahma multiplies as 10 Brahmas. This would mean that a 4 space leads to 5 space setup. It is this transition and transformation for 4-space body hypercube 4 into 5-space body hypercube 5. It is this phenomenon which is a yajna. This yajna is the yajna of meditation within cavity of one's own heart. As the heart as an organ is of one dimensional higher than the domain itself, therefore the process of yajna would mean that we have to transit and transform from an existing domain setup to the setup of the origin. Step ahead, we know Ram Bhakta Hanuman, a incarnation of Lord Shiva, incarnation of 5-space, the transcendental incarnation. So 5-space as a domain is having 6-space as an origin. Lord Rama is incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Hanuman is incarnation of Lord Shiva. So this yajna in a continuing process takes us from the enlightenment of Creator, the Supreme Lord Brahma, multiplying as 10 Brahmas, because of the seat of the Transcendental Lord within the cavity of the Lord Brahma. Step ahead and in continuity, the Vedic systems preserve that within the cavity of heart of Hanuman, within the cavity of the origin of 5-space is a seat of a 6-space. Therefore, the sadhakas fulfilled with intensity effort to be parallel to the institution of a yajna as the basic institutional format, processing format of Rigved Samhita, have to sequentially reach from the enlightenment path of Creator, the Supreme Lord Brahma, to the enlightenment attainment of the Hanuman. This process is the process which takes us and brings us face to face with that sadhakas are fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be parallel with the Vedic systems shall sit comfortably and to meditate within the cavity of one's own heart. At a first phase, the enlightenment will be that we will be providing a consciousness base for our intelligence. And at the next phase, the consciousness base itself will become self-referral. It is this self-referral consciousness base of the intelligence which is to be attained by us as sadhakas, fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be parallel with the Vedic systems. Therefore, when we will be having a 3-space, having a degree of freedom of motion within 4-space, it at the second step will be leading us to coordination with the origin of 4-space itself. So from 3-space we have to reach to 4-space, from 4-space we have to reach to 5-space. It is pair of phases, processing steps which are to be learned. And 5-space we know is a solid order space, and therefore the dimensional value here will be 15. 13-edged cube, when gets coordinated with the solid dimensional frame of value 15, will take us to value 28. And we know the value 28 is the value of the Brahm. It is the eternity. So sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be parallel with the format, features and values of Rigved Samhita as Vedic systems is to be parallel to the two-phased enlightenment attainment phases and to be of the format of the Brahm, the eternity. Sadhakas shall sequentially have a melting for the one's blocks. The mental blocks initially are of three space. We know when we are within a cube or when we are within a room, it is having enveloped by surface plates. A raised to power 3 is to 6, B raised to power 2 is the domain boundary ratio of a cube. So when we are within a cube, when we are within a room, for our universe becomes a 3 space. It looks like everything is a 3 space, and the 6 boundary components give us a reach for sun, the and as of the value of 6. But when we come out of a cube, when we come out of 3 space, so we will be viewing with melting of the linear dimensional order of a 3 space that this space becomes 4 space. When we come out of a room, then see that the space is a 4 space because the spatial order surfaces, when are stripped off, these dimensionalize, the 2 space dimensionalizes the space as a 4 space. So this universe looks to us, appears to us, becomes comprehensible by us as a 4 space, and the sun becomes of value 8 because of the 4 space, a hypercube, a 4 setup is having a domain boundary ratio as A raised to power 4 is to 8B raised to power 3, and this boundary is a solid boundary of 8 components. So our universe, our 4 space, our comprehension and limitation of reach of 4 space gets enveloped by 8 solids, and we look like that 3 space at the outer is taking us to a 6 space, and these 8 components make it as if sun is of value 8. A step ahead, when we come out of 4 space, hypercube 4, then outer space becomes for us a 5 space universe, and this 5 space universe is A raised to power 5 is to 10B raised to power 4. So our hypercube of 5, which is enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components, makes our sun as of value 10. But we have not to stop here, because the 5 space itself as well is enveloped within creative boundary of 4 space, and this 4 space, when gets stripped off from the boundary, it creates the outer space as a 6 space. Now A raised to power 6 is to 12, B raised to power 5 is the ratio, domain boundary ratio for hypercube 6. Now see here that the 6 space is having 7 space as a origin. When this 7 space as an origin splits out, separates itself, transcends therefrom, then the 6 space domain gets multiplied as a pair of domains. It is this Jagriti. This is this awakening stage. Sadhakas are fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel with the Vedic systems, have to sequentially melt the mental states. This sequential melting of the mental states will bring the brain to an awakening stage. One is to awaken. We have to awake, and it is this awakened stage which is the value of the formulation Jagriti. And this Jagriti is the formulation which is of a triple syllables. And the values of the triple syllables are 6, 7 and 6. And it is parallel to the phenomenon of the split of a 6-space domain into a pair of 6-space domains. It is this reach, it is this phenomenon, it is this awakening which is to be attained by the sadhakas to be parallel with the Vedic systems. Now see that if we are going to pentagon, polygon 5, as a printf of a 5-space, a hypercube 5, with P6 hexagon, polygon 6 as the origin, and when the origin will split out, it will transcend out, then it will create the another pentagon on the other side. It is this feature of polygon 5 along the first surface enveloping, it is on the second face of the surface. So within 3 space, our surface is having a pair of faces. Therefore, with this awakening, we will be parallel to the setup for a surface as of a pair of faces. So the 6 spaces origin is having one face of polygon 5 and is also having a second face of polygon 5. Now see, the polygon 5 is a setup which creates a inner polygon as none of the diagonals is passing through the center. Therefore, this phenomenon of polygon within a polygon is of infinite continuum process. And 6 space as an origin, as polygon 6, we see that hexagon within the hexagon is taking us to a setup that triple diagonals, internal diagonals pass through the center. One may have a pause here and see 5 space is attainable as a pair of solid dimensions. There are pair of faces. 3 of the diagonals pass through the center. Therefore, it is this phenomenon of coordination, organization is to be chased to be parallel with the Rigved Samhita. As we have seen that the first rishi of the first richa, the first rishi is Madhuchanda. And this formulation brings us face to face with how the honeybee is storing the honey. So the hexagon as a format or value 6 or the 6-place value system instead of a 10-place value system. Therefore, the transcendental domain takes us to a raised to power 5 is to 10b raised to power 4, a 10-place value system. And the Rigved Samhita is requiring a 6 place value system, as 3 space is playing the role of a dimension of a 5 space. As such, for to be parallel with the organization format of Rigved Samhita, as the way it unfolds itself, so we have to reach from 5 space as a domain to 3 space as a dimension. So we have to begin with a dimension with a solid dimension. Now value 3 takes us on the one hand to a 3 space. Then it takes us to a Vishwaroop. And the Vishwaroop description is, it is having triple dimensions and it is splitting into a pair of triple dimensional frames, so making it A3:6. Then we have to reach it, how this 3 space, which is of a 7 geometry setup within 4 space, will be taking us to third element, a fire element, to a fire god, where we will be having 3 value, 3 arms and the 4 arms setup, and this pair of heads set up for a dimension. A step ahead in a 5 space, we will be face to face with the Dattatreya Bhagwan's idol, a triple head lord, and it is here where our urge will have a complete satisfaction to be parallel with the Rigved Samhita. One shall sit comfortably and meditate the way the Creator himself is meditating, the way the meditation process takes us sequentially ahead for the transcendental domain itself, and the way the whole existence phenomenon is being approached as a unified existence phenomenon, and the existence phenomenon of the solar universe, as well as the existence phenomenon of the human body being parallel with each other, is the reach for the sadhakas who go parallel with the Vedic systems by melting the mental states, sequential melting of mental states, by being along the meditation path of Creator the Supreme. Thank you very much.